Puget Sound is one of the most treasured bodies of water in the world. And while most of us know it as an endless source of recreation and beauty, the story we are faced with now is just how threatened it is.
Like a peach that looks great on the outside, you cut it open and it's rotten on the inside. By appearances, Puget Sound can look pretty good. But once we get below the surface, if we're willing to take the time and think about it, we realize it's got some serious problems.
Some of the orcas and salmon are telling us a story that what is happening to them can happen to us.
Our salmon right now are having a hard time in Puget Sound. When they come migrating out of the river and they hit Puget Sound, a lot of them die right now. They just don't get to the ocean.
When I first started working seriously on protecting Puget Sound, it was in the early 1980s. And there were definitely problems. We could see things out there that weren't so good. But the general idea was that we still had time to protect it. And I have to say that since the 80s, we've seen some things go rapidly downhill.
The gravity of the problem can quite literally be summed up in that one word, gravity. Every drop of precipitation that falls, water we use daily, treated sewage and industrial pollution all make their way down to the lowest geographic point in our area, Puget Sound.
A study by the Department of Ecology suggests that about 54 days residence time for water in South Puget Sound. So imagine if you're polluting anything from nutrients to stormwater to metals, all that water is going to stay in here and all those pollutants are going to stay for 54 days before they get turned over by the tides. It requires a large amount of freshwater runoff in order to drive that estuarine circulation, bring in fresh salt water from the ocean. And in that amount of time, you're going to concentrate a lot of bad water quality, which can cause the organisms right below my feet to take it up and become more toxic. They can pass toxic chemicals up through the food chain to larger organisms like fish and birds and even marine mammals. The seals in Puget Sound are some of the most toxic seals anywhere in the world because they're at the top of the food chain.
At the very top of the food chain is us, thriving quite nicely, 4.5 million strong and growing rapidly. But the urban to suburban circle that now lines most of Puget Sound is taking a toll.
The more encroachment we have from humans onto the shorelines and more problems with stormwater reaching these beaches, we have to close more of those shellfish areas. So from the other side of Tacoma Narrows on up to Everett, all of those shorelines are closed because there's too much human development, too close to the shoreline.
The primary work of People for Puget Sound is public education, habitat restoration, and community and political action.
People for Puget Sound is strong because we emphasize people. We're also perhaps unusual among environmental organizations because we see people as part of the ecosystem. And so we're not trying to suggest to people that the environment is something over there and people are something over here. We bring those things together.
Just look around. I mean, for people to come out on a day like this when it's snowing and raining, and I mean, it's one thing for them to come out when it's beautiful, sunny weather, but it really shows their commitment when they're willing to come out in the snow.
People want to do good. People want to restore habitat. They want the salmon back. So the people for Puget Sound have been that voice for a long time, and they're bearing the fruits now of all the work they've done because everybody's excited. The right voice of perseverance, and they were the right voice for vision, and now they're the right voice to bear the fruits and see wonderful things done.
People for Puget Sound is an important part of what we're all doing and what we're all about. They got a lot of committed people. They got a lot of leadership, and you know, it takes leadership to make things happen.
Government responds to people. So People for Puget Sound has what you might say a pure purpose, which is to improve comprehensively the quality of Puget Sound. So they are very credible. When they come to the legislature and say, here's what we need, their opinion counts.
People for Puget Sound has a tremendous role in translating the information the science produces, what is happening, and translating it to telling people what needs to be done.
We are who we are because of where we are. And where we are is Puget Sound.
You know, if you live here, you are part of the problem, but you are also part of the solution. And I think we have to be hopeful about this. You know, it took us how many years, 100, 150 years, to create the problems that we have with no trees along our shoreline like there used to be. So it's going to take us some time to do that, and for the sake of our children's children.
I don't think there's anything more important than taking care of where we live. And Puget Sound is where we live. It's a reflection of what we're doing all around our region. And as long as Puget Sound is unhealthy, we are not doing what we can to live sustainably and in harmony with our environment. I think people who live here care deeply about the future. And to me, there's just nothing more important than how Puget Sound reflects that future.
You can make a difference today by supporting the work of People for Puget Sound as a member, a volunteer, or an activist. Join the effort to save our sound by taking action today.